everyone, and welcome to Genre Flip. I'm Ben.
And I'm Erik.
And Genre Flip's a podcast where we take a movie that's in a clear genre, flip it around, and try to see if it works in a different genre.
That's right. And this week we're taking the young adult action movie, The Maze Runner, based on the book, and we're going to try and turn it into an anime.
So I feel like this movie kind of lends itself. It should have been an anime. I mean, it's like angsty teens trapped in a world that they don't understand, filled with, these like robot monsters that are attacking them, and they're trying to get out of it. This seems like if somebody described this to me and I had never heard anything about Maze Runner, I would have just easily assumed this is an anime.
Oh, yeah. Based on like the young cast and the type of robot spider antagonists they have to deal with. If you just heard this kind of described to you, you think, oh, that it seems like a very clear anime or manga.
Well, and I think that making it an anime would improve the story quite a bit just because of some of the flaws that I saw kind of in this movie. Like, there's not a lot of character development for any character. Even the main character, Thomas, we only know that he was working for the organization of people that sent them into the maze and that he is somehow special. I mean, that's right. Basically all that we know about him.
Based on, clearly we're going to get into spoilers about this whole movie, but based on like the end of this movie, it's just left on a big cliffhanger. And I know it's part of a series of books, but for a movie, it feels like you need something with more of a defined, clear ending so that what if they didn't get to make a sequel? What if this was it? Then any fans of this movie are just going to be like left without any indication of what's to come next. They're not going to get a movie sequel.
That's like the Mummy with Tom Cruise. I mean, they were setting it up to be this whole huge monster universe, and since that movie flopped, like all the people that were excited about all the other monster movies that were going to come after and how they set it up in that movie are now just left hanging. And it could have just as easily ended up this way. Now, this movie was obviously going to be a success. I mean, it's coming out around the time of, Hunger Games, Twilight, all of the teenage angst movies are super popular right now. And so, Maze Runner was inevitably going to be a smash hit. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think that I'm the audience that this movie was intended for. I mean, this is obviously for a younger generation than
we were 10 to 15 years younger than we are, we would be the target.
Dude, this movie would be fucking amazing. Yeah, and it is an amazing concept, but just the execution was not great in my opinion.
Yeah, it's one of those things with concept sounds really cool. I could see this story, being really good, but the execution was just kind of so-so. And just because of that gap in between what you're expecting and what you get, it feels like, I think objectively, it's not a bad movie. Like, it's an okay movie. But
and so I say that, I mean, I didn't enjoy it, but knowing that the audience was meant to be for someone else, I give it, the benefit of the doubt, and I say that this movie is, in fact, worth watching, especially if you are related to someone who would enjoy it, or if you yourself, are a younger crowd. Maybe, or even if you've read the books, maybe you would enjoy it. I don't know. But
I don't know what it is about movies like this. It just feels like sterilized almost. I don't know. Like, I feel like it could go a lot, I don't want to say darker. Or more
if it went darker, this movie would be way better. I don't know. Well, just because I felt like the characters were invincible. Like, there was like the characters that were like clearly going to die right from the get-go. And like, or the characters that are only in the one scene where they're killed. But like the main characters, they are invincible. I mean, there's a scene in this movie where Thomas is running through the maze at night. No one has ever survived a night in the maze. They're talking about how these people who have been going throughout it for years, have years of experience, yet this person who has just, the first time he's ever been in the maze was at night, a time where no one has ever survived before, and somehow he outsmarts one of these, whatever the fuck they call them. I don't remember what they call the beasts. Do you remember?
Grievers, I think?
Yeah, oh, that's another thing. Why the fuck do they give so many nicknames to everything? They're like, this is the Glade, we're Gladers. This is a Griever. Like, why do you need names for everything?
You're not going to become a runner.
Yeah. But
I mean, I think it's supposed to be like, oh, these kids have all woken up in this place and they don't know what's going on, and they've kind of built their own miniature civilization. They've got like a tribe going, and it's interesting. That's a cool concept, but like, it's like a little bit cringy to me to see these kids or like teenagers who are trying to act like these gruff adults, and they're like,
yeah.
I know what's all up with the world, and you're only a year older than me, you don't know, and they're just. I don't know. Like the douchey character in this movie, the antagonist.
Oh, you're talking
human,
about Eyebrows?
Like, yeah, he's always trying to stop Thomas. And
oh
like,
God, Eyebrows is so weird. I don't care what his name is. It's Galley, but dude, he's got the weirdest eyebrows, man. He needs some work done.
he's like, as soon as you see, no offense to the actor who portrays him, but when you see him on screen, you're like, oh, he's the bad guy. You don't need to hear him say a word.
All right, well, before we get into writing down the things that we need to make sure that we keep so that we can start to map out our work ahead of us for the anime, do you want to do just like a quick overview, like maybe like a 60-second of like what this movie was basically about?
Sure. I feel like it might not even take that long to get through the whole thing.
yeah, or just really quickly, like however quickly you can make it.
Okay. Let me try to improvise this. Honestly, I watched this yesterday. I forget most of it already. But, okay, so Thomas, he doesn't actually remember his name. He's just some kid. He wakes up, and he's in this, like, metal elevator that's rising, and he comes above ground and finds himself in this compound, like a big field surrounded by these huge tall walls, like a couple 100 feet tall or something, like Game of Thrones style, except they're made of metal. And these walls, they have like doorways in the centers, and they open out to this big maze. And he learns that there's like this tribe of kids who go out exploring the maze. They've got runners that go out and look for a way out. But you can't be in the maze like after dark, because there's these big spider mechanical creatures called grievers who attack them. And eventually Thomas and his friends get through the maze and find the way to escape. And it turns out it's part of this large conspiracy where they're like
which of course
kids.
It is. I mean, this movie is basically Hunger Games or Divergent or whatever. You know, they're all the same movie.
Big government conspiracy where all these kids are like indoctrinated or initiated into some sort of program, and then one of them excels beyond anybody else, and they are the chosen one, and they can save the world.
All right,
That's
so
all
what are some of the things that we need to make sure that we keep for our anime genre flip here? So we'll obviously there's got to be like a maze. There's got to be like a civilization inside the maze.
Yeah, made primarily of kids, I guess.
Yeah,
it's fine if we keep that because that feels very anime. That feels like Naruto or Dragon Ball or One Piece or whatever.
Yeah.
My Hero
Name
Academia.
any anime. Something that I think that we need to remove, and actually one of the problems that I have with this movie is the fact that the kids can't remember anything. I think that's lazy writing. I think that they could have made it so that the kid remembers their life and their family, but they don't remember how they got into the glade. I think that would have made it better for these kids to have some sort of backstory, so you can actually feel anything for these characters.
And it's
because
like
you don't know anything about them.
To be fair, I have not seen the sequels. I haven't read the books. I actually read the first book a while back before I saw the movie.
Was the book any good?
Yeah. It was like the same as the movie. It was fine.
Oh yeah.
But I don't. It's like some kind of apocalyptic event happened. They reference it at the end of the Maze Runner, and they say like there was something with the sun. I guess like a solar flare or something that wipes out a lot of humanity, and these are like the few remaining survivors, and they're training people to deal with something. I don't know, maybe some sort of like biomechanical creatures that have now taken over the Earth, like the Grievers, and the kids are being trained to destroy them. And
All right, so mechanical creatures in the maze. Kids don't know how they got in the maze.
And then it does feel very anime to have like a secret organization that's in control behind the scenes, and then the kids like discover the existence of them at the end.
Okay.
I feel like that still works. That would fit in an
I think
anime
so
pretty
too.
well.
Anything else? I'm trying to think if there's not really much to the plot of this movie. It's basically we've written pretty much the entirety of what the movie is. Civilization of kids living inside this maze. There's mechanical creatures trying to kill them. Kids don't know how they got in the maze, and there's a secret organization in control of it. That's pretty much it, right?
should we have like this also feels very anime to have like this group of guys and then all of a sudden there's like one girl character
Yeah,
and all the
one
guys are
girl.
like, "Oh my god, a girl. No way."
Yeah, but the girl was the most. Don't even get me started on her. I mean, she's like I'm here because I'm a girl and no one knows anything about me and I don't do anything. Like
Yeah. Well,
oh man.
she's kind of there to be like not a counterpart to Thomas, but somebody who he can talk to about like his dreams, and she can be like, "Oh, I've had the same kind of dreams." And she's special because she is the last person who's going to be sent up to join this
Right.
tribe.
Okay, well let's discuss our characters for this anime. We've got Thomas, who's the main character.
I don't remember anybody's name except for Thomas.
He's special, is all I'm gonna write about him.
He is the chosen one.
Yeah. Well, then there's Albie, who's the guy that's clearly going to die. Right from the get-go. I mean, he even says, like, when you say a line, he's like, "Hey, my name's Albie, and this right here is Newt. He's in charge whenever I'm gone." Oh, so you're gonna die. I mean, it's like the most obvious thing. I was like, so when's he gonna die? I was actually surprised when he got stung and then was better, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe he's not gonna die. And then he dies. So I was like, oh, okay,
Well,
I was right
yeah.
all along.
It does give him a nice like self-sacrifice moment where he saves the one kid from the griever and then himself gets taken.
Right, so there's Albie, the kid in charge. Then there's Gally, the douchebag.
Oh yeah.
Then there's the girl. Who cares what her name is?
Girl. Just refer to her as anime girl.
Then there's let's see. Oh, Mino. Yeah, Mino. I have IMDb up right now. That's the only reason why
Okay.
I know the kids' characters.
Who is
Because
Mino?
the thing is, it's really difficult to actually figure out what these kids' names are for the majority of the movie. Actually, until I looked it up later,
They
I
don't
thought
say
that
the names very often.
Oh, I thought that the kid's name was Alvin. It's actually Albie.
Oh, okay. See, that one I remember hearing that and noticing it because Flight of the Conchords have a song called "I'll Be the Racist Dragon."
Okay.
So that's the first thing I thought of.
Mino is like the cool friend.
Oh, okay.
And then we can have Chuck, who is like the disposable one.
Who was he? Was he like the larger kid?
Yeah, he was the kid that dies.
Okay.
The kid that gets shot in the end, and he's like, "My parents, I made this for them."
Dude,
Well, that's one thing I didn't understand about Chuck is that they were like, "All right, Chuck, you hold the key. You're the one that's you got to make sure that you get there for us." I was like, "Why are you giving Chuck, clearly the slowest kid, the key?"
What was the douchey guy's name again?
Gally.
I love how just like in that climactic moment he just gets stabbed through the heart with the spear. All of a sudden.
How did he
I don't
even
remember
get there?
someone
How did
having a
he even
spear.
get out? I mean, the kids,
Yeah,
like,
right?
they shut, like, these giant walls on top of the grievers, and it was, like, very clear that, like, they are completely shut off from the maze. There is no more getting out. Either Gally knows something that we don't, and he has been hiding it from everyone the entire time, or that is a fucking plot hole.
Yeah, I don't know how he got there. I guess he just snuck in behind them and followed them the whole way.
All right, so
Which is
we've
weird.
got our cast of characters here. We've got Thomas, the special one. We've got Albie, the kid in charge. Gally, the douchebag. The girl, who's, I mean, we'll have to come up with something better as far
girl.
as backstory.
Yeah,
Her name's Teresa, and
Okay.
yeah. And then Minnow, the cool friend, and then Chuck, the disposable one. Are you ready to jump into this genre flip?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, cool.
figure this
So we can go ahead and start off the exact same way with Thomas, coming up in the elevator in the beginning, with all the kids that are, that are like standing around being like, "Welcome to the maze, bitch." But which was something that I was curious about. Like, I don't know why they think that they need to intimidate Thomas right from the get-go. Why aren't they like, "Hey, looks like you're in here too. Hey, so sorry about that happening, but let me show you the ropes here real quick." If they were just nice about it, people wouldn't run away and freak out and think that this is a horrible place.
I guess they've already kind of built this social hierarchy, and the ones who are in charge want to make sure it stays that way, and they don't want to come across as pushovers.
Right. Okay. So what do we want to have happen? I mean, we're just gonna keep it the same, where Thomas comes out and then they explain it to him that this is the maze. They basically explain the entire story right from the get go. This is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
maze. We can't get out. We're trapped in here and we're trying to find a way out. Basically.
Do we want to? I'm thinking about the apocalyptic event that happened. I don't know what it is in the actual series. I guess solar flare or whatever, like I talked about earlier. But I'm thinking like he comes up the elevator, he wakes up, and he realizes that he doesn't have any memories after around the age of, I don't know, like 12. And what is he now, like 16?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like that's when the event happened. And since then, he's been like trained to become like a warrior or something to fight the alien menace or whatever the fuck.
All right, yeah, that makes a lot more sense, because that's one thing. I mean, like, what we should have is he should have the first 12 years of memories with his family, like a loving family or a traumatic, like, well, I mean, because like every good anime has got a traumatic backstory for every single character. So there has to be something traumatic that happens in their childhood, whether it's like their family can't afford to like, give them
Okay.
what they want, or, like their dad was not in the picture and so the mom was raising the kids and having to work all the time, like something traumatic.
Let's say like right before, like the last thing he can remember basically is that he did something and he's blaming himself for the death of his family. Like they
Okay.
died due to the apocalyptic event, but for whatever reason he feels like he was responsible for that, because he
Okay.
was like, "Hey, why don't we go into town today? I want to do this." And then it got like hit by a bomb or something. And
Okay.
like they died, but he was safe because I don't know, because reasons.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Oh, I mean, if we're continuing the plot, it's like these kids are special and they can survive out in the wilderness.
Right.
But
Maybe they have some kind of like genetic something, and it's like, oh, the solar flare just couldn't affect you because you have the ability to withstand high temperatures. Or
yeah.
something.
Okay, so yeah, basically, Thomas, all that he can remember is that he's blaming himself for his family's death, and he's obviously crying about it because every anime character cries constantly, and except in, like, I mean, well, I guess not all of them, but I mean, there is a lot of crying in anime, right?
Yeah. There.
It's like passionate. It's like what I think anime is I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that
yeah.
anime is an over exaggeration of every single emotion.
Yeah, every character has just way super heightened emotion.
Yeah.
So when they're happy, they're super fucking happy and excited and going crazy, and when they're sad, they're like crying and like punching a mirror and breaking it. And
Okay.
you see the tears streaming down their face and stuff.
So we see Thomas as a kid with his family, in a,
Well,
it's got
maybe
to be like a sunset, like like a golden hour kind of situation, holding
yeah, yeah.
hands with mom and dad, as they're walking and they're laughing because something's funny. And then all of a sudden the sun gets really bright and the parents are like, oh, and he's like, Mom, Dad, no. And so he blames himself because he wanted to go to the park, and that's why his parents are dead. And so then he wakes up in the elevator. He gets up, and then he's like, "Holy shit, I'm like an adult now." And it's like
Okay,
he
we've gotta
was a
have it
kid,
be
and now
like
he's like a fucking jacked badass.
he wanted them to bring him to the park because he was desperate to like go on the track that they have there at the park and like run around, because he's a runner. This is like this is what he's known for. So he's always wanted to do like track and field and be like in the Olympics for the
Sure.
races. And so he's
Okay.
like, he makes them take him there so he can practice. And that's when the thing happens. And he's like on the track running, and he's about to beat like 100-meter sprint record of his own. And then the sun starts glowing, and he's looking at his parents, and they start freaking out. And he's like, what's going on? Looks up at the sun, whole screen fills with white. By the time it fades back to reality, it's like buildings are destroyed, the trees are on fire, the ground is torched, and Thomas is like, his clothing is like in ruins, and he's standing there, and his family is just a bunch of like dead skeletons, burning corpses up on their
And
rafters.
then it has to cut back to him, like now he's, getting into the glade, where when the elevator opens up, he sees all of those kids who are
Oh,
either in super cool anime outfits or are in very primitive outfits, and everyone is like a child of the land kind of thing.
right. These are all these kids that have the ability to withstand the the solar flare, whatever it was that destroyed the rest of the Earth.
Right. So we get in, and they're super intimidating and whatever, and so he runs off, and they're like, "Oh man, he's fast. He might just be fast enough." And so
You think he could become a runner? No way. Only the best of the best become runners.
And so Albie comes up to him, and he's just like, "Hey, what's your name?" And he doesn't need to have forgotten, because that's stupid. He can be like, "Hey, I'm Thomas. I don't know how I got here. I was with my family, and now I'm here. What is this place?" And then Albie
Like,
can
my
explain
voice,
it to
why
him.
is it deeper? I don't get it.
Yeah, and then he like looks down at his hands, and he's like fucking jacked.
They have like some mirror or like a body of water, and he just looks at it and he's like, "Oh my god, I can't even recognize myself." What year is it? And they're like, "We don't fucking know."
We don't know.
It's 4 years after the event, and he's like, "What's the event?" And they're like, one guy in the back, the bad guy, is like, "You don't remember?" And he's like carving the tip of a spear to sharpen it, and he's like, "It was 4 years ago." And he goes over like his own recollection of the event, and he's like, "The sun exploded in a powerful flash, and all of a sudden, everyone was dead. Everyone
picturing-
except us."
I'm picturing Gally as like a kid with like the biggest eyebrows. Like he has got to have giant eyebrows that like extend way past his face, like that are just like eyebrows that are like in the open, like out past his head. Like we got to like accentuate the features of these characters.
Fuck you,
but
and your eyebrows.
I mean, do these kids have? I mean, since we're doing anime, do these kids have superpowers, or is it like they are? They are trained warriors based on the 4 years that they don't remember. That basically makes them almost like superhuman, but they're actually just regular humans that have been trained
Well, I think
for this.
If we go with this thing where they survived the event and Thomas was like right there and everything around him was destroyed, but he somehow survived, he's got to have some innate ability to withstand huge amounts of heat, and the other people must have that ability or something similar. I'm thinking now of the quirks in My Hero Academia and how everyone has a different type of power.
What if it's like a Superman kind of situation where the sun, even though it exploded and killed everyone else around him,
It made them more powerful.
It made him more powerful. Yeah.
Okay.
And
yeah,
that's
so
why they can't go into the glade, or that's why they can't go into the maze at night, because when the sun goes down, their power gets limited.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds cool. So the sun, when that event happened, they survived it. Not only did they survive it, but it essentially granted them the power that they had within them all along and didn't know until it was awakened in that moment.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, this movie's
So,
awesome.
like, the remaining survivors of Earth, like the government, rounded up all the kids who displayed these powers and started training them secretly. And I don't know, maybe some of the adults also had powers that awakened within them. And so the ones at the top of the evil organization are the most powerful beings.
Okay.
But these kids are being trained to fight off, I guess. I don't know if the mechanical, like the grievers were created by the humans for the kids to have to pass through as a trial.
I mean,
or if those were,
unless here's the thing: unless we went further into the series, we wouldn't know that anyway. So if
Right.
somebody has like read all the books and they're like, "No, it wasn't. It's this," we don't know. We've only seen the first movie, and we're only doing the first movie. So like outside of the lore of the first movie, we wouldn't have that knowledge anyway.
Okay, so we can just make this shit up. Let's
Yeah.
say, along with the sun explosion, there's some sort of like, due to that, there's some factory somewhere. It's like Horizon Zero Dawn, and they're making like biomechanical animals, and all of a sudden they're running rampant, and they've taken over, and their AI has grown out of control.
Oh, fuck.
And now the humans are trying to gather all the powerful humans to destroy these sentient biomechanical robots that are taking over the land.
So
So
now
it's
all
superpowered
of the
humans
like
versus
adult
animal
humans have
robots.
locked themselves, like have been able to rally up all of the like the biomechanical animals and lock them into this one maze, and but because they were able to lure them here, but they weren't able to actually defeat them, and that's why
Right.
they've got these
Well, it could be
kids
like-
who they feel like are the only ones that can actually defeat them are the ones that are going to save them all, kind of thing.
Right. Well, it could be like this is just a small segment of the mechanical animals that
Okay.
are out there. And they
Sure.
think, like, these are the easiest we can deal with. One time we had a squadron of 20 humans, and they were able to take out one of these things. But these kids might be able to surpass us. So they gathered up a bunch of the grievers and put them in this big maze, and they're having this be the first trial that the kids have to conquer to prove that they're up to the task of taking back the Earth for humanity.
Okay, so so Albie is basically explaining all of this exposition
Yeah.
to Thomas, and he's just like, "Oh shit, man, this world has really gotten fucked up." And he's like, "All right, so let me show you around the area." He's like, "We've got." These, like, everybody does their part around here, and he shows the expendable kids that have like the roles that are like, this guy's a chef. This guy, he makes. These guys are builders. They use their quirk, or they use their. I don't know. They use
They're
their
able to,
super
like,
abilities
join-
to lift heavy things or whatever.
Yeah, they can, like, lift things, and they can just, like, join wood and metal together just via their hands. They can just make
Yeah.
it happen.
So
So they're building all the structures for everybody to live inside and everything.
Yeah, so they're like keeping everybody sheltered. Like the other people, like some of the people are keeping everybody fed. Some of the people have, medical skills or whatever. So they're keeping everybody healthy. So like some of the people are based on the survival of the community, and then there's some people who have special abilities that don't really, contribute to the survival of people inside of a civilization. They're special abilities that are used for combat or that are used for
action
scavenging
abilities.
or some sort of action ability that is used inside the maze.
This guy's able to fire bullets out of his fingertips.
Dude, this is so much My Hero Academia. It's
I know.
crazy.
I'm thinking that Thomas has to have the quirk where, like, his legs are rocket powered and they have, like, the exhaust engines in them. So that's why he's the ultimate runner, and he can be trained to run through this maze.
Okay.
But he doesn't have, like, he can run, but he doesn't have, like, a fighting ability, so he needs to have others go with him who do have, like, combat abilities, and they can fight off the grievers while they're trying to map the maze.
Okay, well, I mean, we have we only have a handful of characters that are really at our disposal. So we've got, Thomas, of course, being the main character. He has some sort of ability that makes him run quickly, and that is what, it makes him a great runner, for him being able to map out the maze really quickly so he can find a way out. Then there's Albie, the kid in charge. He's got to have some sort of, like, overall useful ability, not something that's, like, amazing in any way, but something that's, like, useful for survival in all types, because he's the kid that's been here the longest.
Right. I'm thinking, like, because isn't he like the main runner, and he's the one who's mapped out most of the maze?
So he
By
wasn't
himself?
actually a runner. He was just the guy that's like the sheriff, like the guy
Okay.
that's in charge of the land, kind of deal. And so everyone was surprised in the movie whenever he actually goes in after Ben. But that's just the way that the movie went. But
He should have some ability, like a sonar or a radar, that, like, he can just use his eyes and, like, see through walls, so he can see, like,
if
where
he
they
could
need to
do
go
that,
next.
then why haven't they found a way out of the maze?
Well, I mean, in the movie, they have found, like, various ways, and they know, like, they segmented it into, like, 7 different stations or something, and they know, like,
Okay.
oh, what's special about station number 7? They're like, oh, we don't know. We think that's where the grievers come from, but we haven't, like, been able to get through. So, like, they know about it. They just haven't gotten the chance to actually go further in and explore yet.
Sure. Well, and Albie doesn't want to go further in because, he doesn't have some sort of combat ability. And so by going further, he's putting himself at risk, which means that, without that ability at all, I mean, he's like some sort of communicator. I'm thinking he's like, what's the girl in Batman that, like, can see everything and is giving him a heads up?
Oh, Barbara?
Yeah. But what's her code name?
Oh,
Oracle. That's what it is.
Oracle. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like the Oracle character, the person that's like the voice from above kind of deal. Maybe there's some sort of person whose special ability is that they can, they have, like, an astute, technical ability where they can, create some sort of communication, or there's some sort
What
of,
if
like,
it's like
communicator.
their ability is telepathy, and they can just contact the mind of anybody within a
So he's
certain,
like
span.
Professor Xavier.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, sure. So he's got, the like he can tell people about like where to go and what to do kind of thing, but only if there is a clear path to that person. So
Right.
like once the walls close at night, you do not have
It's
the
too
ability.
thick. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't. Albie does not have the ability to be able to contact you, and that's another reason why, being in there at night is a bad, bad idea.
Right.
Uh,
And it can also be like once he's stung, they know they're not going to have a way to communicate with people who are running out there and the people who are in the field in the center. So like he's their only way to communicate past the wall.
right.
So when he's stung, he could be like fucking with their heads and going crazy in his own mind until he
Yeah.
becomes all right again.
So, we the only other character that we actually need to come up with their special ability right now is Mino, because he is. He's in the movie quite a bit alongside Thomas, and he's the. He has to have something also that makes him quick. I don't want to give them the same ability.
Yeah.
But I mean, are we set like Thomas has rocket legs?
Maybe.
Is that what this is?
It can be that, or he could just have like the ability to run really, really fast.
Okay,
Like
so
the
yeah,
Flash.
he's a fast runner guy.
What if is his name Minnow, you said?
Yeah.
What if he had the ability to like copy other people's powers for like a limited amount of time? So if he's tagging along with somebody, he can essentially use their power also.
Okay. Sure. We can do that.
Because
So
it
as
seems
long
like his
as
whole
long
thing
as
in
he's
this movie
with
is like he's a good friend. So
yeah.
like being able to back people up seems like something he would be able to do.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So he's like a copier type special ability guy. Okay, that makes sense. All right. So we have established the lay of the land here. Thomas is someone who is very curious about going in the maze, but Gally is very adamant about how there's an order to this world and how he can't just be a runner. He just came out of this and he hasn't paid his dues, kind of thing. Well, then of course Ben gets hurt by one of the
Grievers.
by one of the grievers and attacks Thomas, and Albie goes inside the maze and is trying to like retrace Ben's steps so they can make sure that why does Albie go in if we've established that he shouldn't go? But Albie's like, I'll take this on by myself. For some reason he got really cocky, so he decides to go into the maze to figure out why Ben got stung.
Well, I mean, if he has not only the ability to use telepathy but also has the radar kind of thing, it's like he needs to be out there to like see through the next few walls and know where to go next.
Yeah, maybe he was curious because he didn't see any issues with that area, like what is going on. There was no enemies around there. Like why is he going crazy? So he decided to go out there by himself to alongside Minnow to figure out exactly like what is going on in this area. And of course, he doesn't make it back in time, and he is locked inside the maze alongside Thomas, who runs in there really quickly because he's confident in his running abilities that he can do it. But as Minnow explains to him, your special abilities don't work at night. They are totally based on the sun, or a lot of it is based on the sun. So he is weaker at night, and he's like,
Right.
well, you could have told me this before I ran in here. So now Thomas, Minnow, and Albie are all trapped inside the maze, and their powers are limited.
Right. And of course, they have to try and get Albie like to safety since he's been stung. So they need to like, what did they do in the movie exactly? They made
So
like some
they
kind
end
of
up
pulley
like
system and
hoisting him
hoisted
up somehow. I don't think that we should do that. What I'm thinking that we should ultimately do is we need to make Minnow use the ability that Albie has, because Albie is just like straight up knocked out. I'm thinking that since they still have their powers are just more limited, he can communicate with Albie. Or no, he can communicate with Thomas using Albie's special ability that is, of course, the like telepathy, being able to communicate with others through their
and
mind.
he can say like, listen, I copied the ability from Albie like shortly before he got stung, and I'm only going to be able to use it for a limited amount of time. I don't know when it's going to fade away, but we need to find safety fast.
Well, what I'm thinking is that Thomas can carry Albie to an area that is like somewhat safe, is what they think, and Minnow stays with Albie while Thomas Thomas like works the perimeter or whatever, and
well, maybe like Maybe they go to what they think is a good hiding place, but then they know that a griever is coming close and it's going to corner them, and they're not going to be able to have anywhere to run. So Thomas decides, like, I'm going to run out there, I'm going to be a distraction and just pull them away from you guys.
Okay, and so Minnow is like, trying to get Albie to safety while Thomas is, being the distraction, running around the maze, and the Griever is pretty quick, so he's like quick on his heels. And so Minnow is, walking him through like where to go because Thomas has never been in the maze before, and Minnow was just in there earlier, so he kind of knows, the best areas to go in different places. And I'm thinking ultimately, like the way that they end up killing this Griever is, of course, through Minnow's guide.
Like he wouldn't have been able to do it without Minnow telling him like the direction of where to go and like how the walls are shifting so that he can lure the Griever in a position where the walls will close in and destroy it.
Right. But of course, I mean, we need to, flesh out the Griever's abilities here because, this is the first time that we've ever seen a Griever in this anime. This is an opportunity to like see what they're kind of capable of. So
they've got to be like really hyped up in the beginning. They'll say like, they're like these huge mechanical spiders with all these limbs and they can sting you and you'll go crazy. And maybe Thomas, instead of having a nightmare about the like institution or wherever that trained him, he can have nightmares about grievers and like they keep getting more and more disturbing and he doesn't know what they're going to be like in real life.
Yeah.
And he's just freaking out. They've got like these glowing red eyes and they're running at him and they're like ripping people to shreds and just going crazy.
So since like the way that we decided that the Grievers are going to be are animal related, so these are like bionic animals type thing that have gone crazy.
Yeah.
What kind of animal is this first one going to be?
What if it's like a robot saber-toothed tiger?
Oh fuck, man, this is
now I'm imagining a Zoid.
I mean, it's got to be something quick. So it's like some sort of like tiger, right?
Yeah.
Or it's got to be like a cheetah, or I mean, basically some sort of cat creature is what I'm picturing because that way they've got the ability to climb and they've got the ability, like he can keep up with Thomas for the most part.
So even though Thomas has this ability to run super fast, like it is catching up to him, and he desperately needs some way to trap this creature or to crush it between the walls or something like that.
Well, yeah, and even though during the day Thomas would be able to easily outrun this creature, the further that they go into night, the weaker his powers continue to get. And so he's realizing that the tiger is getting closer and closer, hot on his heels, and Minnow sees it too. And so of course at this point, he's trying to help guide Thomas about where to go, where to jump, where to climb, and all that kind of thing, to be able to, get the tiger into a situation where he is where he's trapped. But of course, as time is going by, Minnow's powers are also getting weaker, and so he needs to stay close enough to Minnow so that he can still guide him, but not so close that Minnow is going to be at risk.
So as Thomas is running, Minnow is like, the safest route is straight ahead, but if you go that way, I'm going to lose track of you and I can't help you, so you got to turn right. You got to trust me here. And then it's getting, more and more crazy, and Thomas is just about caught up with the saber-toothed tiger when the walls start closing in, and he's just barely able to make it out, Inception style, and then the wall closes and just smashes the tiger.
Yeah. So the tiger gets smashed, and of course, it's magically morning again, and they
Thomas can pass out.
Yeah, well, he can pass out when they get outside, but they end up carrying Albie outside of the maze where all the kids are like, "Whoa, no one's ever survived a night in the maze before. You guys are amazing." And Gally's like a fucking bitch again, and he is like, "Whoa, he should be punished because whatever."
What if nobody knows what Galley's ability is, and his ability is to see glimpses of the future, and he can only see, he sees like some of the bad things that are going to happen, and so he knows it's headed that way, but he can't see like ultimately where it's going to lead. So he just knows that their camp is going to get attacked by the Grievers if they keep doing what they're doing.
I have an idea. So there are some kids that don't have special abilities, and they're called gladers or something stupid. They're like, "Oh, these people are the ones that don't have any special abilities," and Gally is one of those. But it turns out Gally actually does have a special ability that he's been keeping to himself because he felt like, he
doesn't trust anybody.
Yeah, exactly. So, they get rested up and everything, and they're ready to go back in the following day. Minnow and Thomas end up going in alone by themselves together. Minnow at this point has remembered all of Albie's teachings, and he can remember like exactly where to go. Albie is disposed at this point, and so they go in and they get like the key from the tiger, and they're like, "Oh, this is a key. What do we do with it?" kind of thing.
And then they know like, well, by that point, Albie can be like regaining his own like self or whatever after having been stung, and he can know like, oh, maybe this is for that area of the maze that I mapped but haven't told people about yet.
Right. But Albie is, at this point, like, he's weak because of having been bit by the tiger,
Yeah.
So he is
So he
pretty much
sees
out of commission.
Yeah, he can like see the key and like react like he knows it's something big, but they can't get any information out of him because he's so tired and he's just passed out.
Right.
We're like, wait, did you recognize this? What is this? And he just can't tell them.
Yeah. So Minnow and Thomas decide to take it. It's up to them to be able to figure out what this key is. So the two of them use their powers to be able to run quickly because, of course, Minnow's copying ability and Thomas's natural ability to be able to run fast. They end up running, and long story short, they end up finding the area where the key fits.
So they're finally able to open that door and get inside the bunker, I don't know what to call it, the building.
Yeah,
and they discover, this is where they discover like the big lab that's been like demolished from the inside, and it looks
so
like
in the actual movie they don't discover that until the very, very end. At this point in the movie, they think that it is possibly a way out, but they like the doors end up shutting behind them, and so they're like, oh shit, we need to get out of here quick.
Right.
So do we want them to discover the lab and then there's something in there, or do we want them like to go a little bit closer to the movie and of course making it? But like,
what if they do open the door and they're able to get into like a part of the building, and so instead of the girl being revealed through the elevator, they find her in there in some sort of like hypersleep chamber, and they wake her up and they're like looking for answers, but she can't tell them anything. She's like, I don't remember anything. Who are you guys?
Yeah, and so Thomas ends up they're talking to her, and then all of a sudden an alarm starts going off and the walls start closing down, and he's like, shit, we've got to get out of here. So he picks up the girl and he starts carrying her, and Minnow has got to be like really close by because of course he's got to make sure he's got to copy the ability, and at any point that Minnow gets too far away, he starts to slow down or whatever. But does the girl have an ability, or like, I think, what happens here?
Yeah, I think that they can't get any further without the girl using her ability. So she's going to have something that allows them to get past even the door that they unlocked. Like maybe she's able to, I don't know, some kind of ability to like get past any kind of blocks,
maybe
get
she
past
can
anything that can.
Maybe she can stop time, like the world around them from moving. Maybe she can, she's like Cyclops and X-Men. She can shoot some sort of laser.
Maybe she can have a different version of telepathy, but it interacts with mechanical objects like electronics.
Okay, so and they like shut stuff down or whatever.
Yeah, she can like influence the grievers and make them like turn and run away from them, or she can unlock doors just by looking at it and making the connection and making it unlock.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking happens. Okay, so like the world is collapsing around them, like the doors are slamming behind them, like the blades are spinning or whatever, and they're running, they're trying to get out of here. Okay, so Thomas is carrying the girl, and Minnow had touched Thomas most recently, and so he has the super speed ability. In doing like dodging and weaving through different things, he accidentally bumps into the girl, and then since he was going extremely quick, and now he immediately slows down because of his running ability being taken away. Because whenever he touches a new person, he ends up inheriting their trait. He ends up like tripping and falling onto the ground, but all of the electronics around them stop completely.
Oh, it's like an EMP blast or something.
Well, I'm thinking that like he has control over the electronics, but because he's not moving and because he's he wants everything to like stop, everything just stops.
Right. and then they realize and stop running, and they turn around and they're like, Minnow, and then they realize like, oh shit, everything is frozen. Like the thing that's chasing them is just stopped right there in its tracks.
Right. And so he's like, all right, well, we got to get out of here. And Thomas helps Minnow up, and in doing so, transfers his power back to him, and then everything starts again.
And they're like, oh, and they start running. And like just in the nick of time, they make it back to the field. And that's when they can finally like take a breather and ask the girl. And she's like, what the fuck? How did you run so fast? How did you stop time? And he's like, I was only able to run so fast because Thomas here has that ability. And I guess I stopped everything going on because I touched you and I inherited your ability. So they tell her, like, you must have some sort of ability to influence these creatures or, like, mechanical things. And then they kind of teach her to harness this power. And they realize this is the way that we're going to get out. Like, she's the only person who can safely go with us to help us, like, stop everything bad that's going on and, you know, finally figure out a way to escape.
So one thing that we need to implement a little bit more of in this movie is that we have to make sure that there is more heartbreak as far as, you know, like backstories and stuff. So maybe while, you know, Thomas and Minnow were running out to figure out this key, Minnow tells his backstory of his family and how, you know, he wasn't good enough in school, and how he always, the only way that he even passed any of the classes in school is because he always copied people's like answers. He was like a cheater, and that was the only way that he ever made anything of himself, and how his parents were like found out about this and they were super disappointed in him. And now his ability ends up being exactly the thing that the parents hated most about him.
And he's like, I swore I would never copy anyone else again, and now look at me. I'm a monster.
Gosh. And of course, Thomas has to have some sort of pep talk. It's like, you're not a monster. Your ability is amazing. You just have to believe in yourself, kind of thing.
He's like, listen, I want you to copy me. Like, this is a good thing in this world. You're not cheating. You're just going with what you were given.
Yeah.
You
know. Okay, yeah. So there's two scenes of heartbreak. We got Thomas and Minnow's backstory. You know, once they get back to the camp, we have to introduce Chuck. We have not talked about him at all. You know, he's got his own kind of heartbreak or whatever backstory where he's like, you know, I miss my family. You know, they were always so great and I loved them, but then I've been taken away. So I made my family this, you know, sculpture.
I made my family disappear.
YouTube references. Anyway, so he's like, my special ability is that I can create tiny dolls.
What?
Well, you know, because he makes that little sculpture thing that he was going to give to his parents, a little toy.
Are you talking like voodoo dolls or something?
No, like, I mean, he is clearly, he's not a runner. He doesn't have a cool special ability. He's got something that's like, you know, adding decor to the homes that are already created.
Yeah,
like, he's got a useless ability.
I've got an ability. It's called feng shui. And I make the home a wonderful place to sit and relax.
I make the homes more fun by adding cool toys and stuff so that we never have to go outside again. Okay, so that's Chuck. Cool. All right, so the next thing that actually happens in the movie, they end up using a vial that the girl had on her to be able to save Albie. Ever since that they unlocked the door, the gates don't close at night and all of the creatures start attacking. So that's probably the thing that should happen next, right?
Right. And so this is where we can learn that the girl's power only extends so far, and she can stop like one or two creatures, but if there are more than that, she just can't. She doesn't have the ability to take care of more than a few at a time.
Right. But Gally has to come up and be like, you don't even realize what you've just done, kind of thing. And everybody's like, Thomas is still awesome. You're being an idiot, kind of thing to Gally. And Gally's just, I mean, the thing is like, you know, here's the thing about Gally's character. You know, a lot of times, like, he has kind of the right idea, Like he wants what's best for everybody, and he just wants for things to for people to be safe or whatever in the movie.
Right.
But he goes about it in the most jerkish way that he becomes like the main antagonist of the story.
He doesn't explain himself at all. He just is overly aggressive, and he's attacking people for not doing what he feels is the safest option. He doesn't explain why. He just yells at people and insults them.
Yeah. So he there's a little brawl between him and Thomas because he punches him, and at this point it's nighttime and the doors are opened and he's just like, "You don't realize what you just did." He's just like, "Your power may be gone because it's night, but I don't have one." And he's like, "And my ability is based on how much I've worked out and I've gotten fucking swole or whatever." And he's beating the shit out of Thomas when a tiger comes up and breaks.
My special ability is kicking your ass.
So then you have to hear a scream off in the distance. That's one of the characters that doesn't matter is being eaten alive by an animal.
They're over in the forest area. Yeah. They
So,
hear the scream and look over, and all of a sudden they see the grievers running out of the forest, and they're like, "Oh shit!"
And these are all different types of jungle animals. I mean, we've got all different types of world animals, really. I mean, we've got a rhino in here. We've got an elephant. We've got more cat-like creatures. Yeah, a whole bunch of different types.
This is that scene from Jumanji where they're like, It's a stampede! And they start crashing through. Trees are falling over. They're smashing through the little garden area that they have set up. They're like, okay. In the actual Maze Runner movie, I don't know why they're like, let's get in this hut made of sticks. We'll be safe in there. It's like the Three Little Pigs. You're not going to be safe in there, clearly.
Yeah, so clearly it is a wolf griever that is coming after them whenever they decide to hide in this pile of sticks.
Mm-hmm.
But Albie is still inside, and in this version of the Maze Runner, we don't actually have those blue vials that the girl gets. So he's still kind of sick and recovering, and he ends up just being eaten by the wolf.
Maybe he has a few last moments of being lucid, and then he is able to sacrifice himself and push somebody out of the way so that he's taken instead of them.
Sweet. So he gets taken down. All these other kids are trying to use their abilities to fend off the wolves or the grievers, but they can't quite do it. Gally has got a group of kids that are inside the elevator area with him, and they're safe. And the remaining kids are all gathered together in this stick house that is they're trying to escape all of the different types of grievers.
What is it in the movie that causes the grievers to just leave them alone? Is it because they got the sacrifice with Albie? They just leave because they got somebody, I guess.
I don't know. They don't really.
It just kind of leaves after that.
Yeah, and then they just kind of leave, and then all of a sudden Thomas is like, "I have to stab myself. I have to remember," but we'll take that out because that's dumb. Then let's see. And then the next thing that they do is Gally has split the town in half, and he's decided that Thomas needs to go to he needs to go into timeout because he's been bad. And so
he's I knew this was coming, and he can say I think that we should reveal what his power was in his final moments before he's killed. So right now he's just acting like he knows everything, and that he knew this was going to happen. He called it. He knew weeks ago, back when Thomas first showed up, or a week ago, however long it was.
Yeah.
And so he divides the town up into two groups. The group that wants to stay with Gally, and I keep having to look at the notes because I keep forgetting Gally's name. Half of the kids stay with Gally. They're like, I like things the way they are. We want to stay here and be safe, even though we were just attacked and one of us was taken and murdered. And then the other half of kids go with Thomas, and they're like, he's the chosen one. He's going to save us all.
Which is another reason, going back to the original movie, that it doesn't make sense that Gally followed them. If he's supposed to be the leader of the group of kids that decide to stay behind, he just straight up abandons them and goes off on his own.
I don't
what
know
a
what his
crappy
objective
leader,
was
man.
I guess he thought that Thomas and his gang were going to end up making things worse off for the people who stayed behind. So he decided to try and stop them by any means necessary.
Right. Okay.
I don't know.
So, there's that whole squabble of, Gally and his group of minions that are trying to overpower Thomas's group, but ultimately Thomas and the girl, as well as, Minnow and Chuck and, the other people, they decide to try to get out of the maze using the key and the area that they had previously discovered.
Right.
Um,
Okay, so they end up
so,
making their way back there. The girl and what's the girl's name? Teresa? You said?
Teresa, yeah.
Okay, so Teresa and Minnow are both using her power to stop like any robots that are coming to attack them, and they end up making it back to that locked door, and they're able to break their way through the lock that they couldn't get through previously back when they found the girl, and they get more into that compound, and they find like this laboratory that looks like it's been demolished, and there's like all these broken computers and everything.
Right.
And do they discover anything before like that woman shows up on the screen and starts saying things?
No, I mean they just basically they discover that everybody's dead, or they think that everybody's dead, basically, and that this place is like all run down, and that it's been overpowered. And then she comes on the screen and kind of reveals that this is like the secret evil organization that
Yeah.
has, they've well. The thing is, I don't know. If we're making this anime, should we go over the top with how evil they are? I mean, since
Yeah.
we've been referencing My Hero
Absolutely.
Academia, the villains in
Yeah.
this movie or the in that TV show is literally called the League of Villains.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if they can be like super evil behind the scenes, but for now they're trying to portray themselves like as the good guys who need the help of these kids.
Okay.
And the kids don't remember that they were like essentially tortured in how their powers were being like taken
To the
you know.
next level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like being honed. So yeah, so they were like basically they this was a big action scene though that we kind of glossed over. Of course, like Minnow and Teresa are trying their best to hold off all of these creatures while everyone else is trying to get inside. Some people are getting killed off. It's just the way that it is. Thomas is over at the computer trying to, hack in the code or whatever. And since he's so fast, he can type things quickly or whatever. And so, they're able to get inside, like we said. And then, of course, the woman comes on the screen and is like, "Congratulations, you passed the trials. You are the world's last hope of survival," kind of thing.
Right. And they're like, "Oh my god." And they still can't remember their training, but she says like everything in the last 4 years has been building to this moment, and like we, the remaining few human survivors of Earth, are all counting on you to stop the robot menace from taking over.
And then they have to kind of like say like the animal or the grievers that you faced inside the maze are just a select few of the ones that are on the outside, and then it shows like live footage of the outside world and how like these animal like cyborg creatures have like fucking taken over and are ripping people to shreds, like that are the few survivors of people that are in the outside world, and how it turns out being inside the maze seemed like it was actually a safer option than being on the outside.
And so they think like, oh, maybe Gally had the right idea staying in where he was. But I mean, even if they stayed in there, it would have been like a lifetime of, living in there and not being able to do anything else outside of that.
So yeah, Gally shows up, of course, and he's like, this is why I knew this was gonna happen all along. You making everything worse for us, Thomas. You have been, the thorn in my side this entire time. I was
We
just
had a
trying to
good
keep
life
everyone
here.
safe. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he can say something alluding to like what they're going to have to face outside the doors. And they're like, "How do you know what's out there? Are you keeping secrets from us?" And he can say like, "You know what? I do have a power. I'm able to see what's going to happen next. And I know that once you go out those doors, everything's going to change for the worse." And
Yeah, and then he's like, and that's why I have to stop it now. And of course, he, pulls out the gun and he tries to shoot Thomas, but Chuck, man, like, this is the only thing Chuck does in this movie. That's why I'm saying he's the disposable one. He's basically like in the movie, the only character that you really learn anything about is Chuck. And he's the only character that doesn't really do anything outside of sacrificing himself. Like, the
Dies.
whole point
Yeah.
of learning things was so that you could feel sad about his death. And of course, like, as Chuck sacrifices himself, like, we need to learn more about his past, and there needs to be like the most heartfelt, like, sad story. And it was like, I almost made it. I almost got back to my parents, and I was gonna show them everything that I've been able to create and accomplish. I could finally make my dad's toy factory successful. With my toy creation abilities, I could finally make this happen. And then he's like, and that's why you have to do it for me. And he touches Minnow. He's like, don't
Gives
touch
him-
anyone else.
The rest of your life.
No, I don't like that. He hands. He's like, show them what I was able to create, and he hands like one of the toys that he makes to Thomas, and
And then he dies, and the toy immediately breaks. And Thomas is like, "Oh, I'll just, I'm gonna leave this right here."
And so in the sequel, when
Poor Chuck.
Chuck's parents are inevitably there, they're like, "Hey, have you seen our son?" He'll just be like, "Oh no, he wasn't in there with us."
Yeah. Oh, no idea.
Oh man, dude, this is a way better movie. I'm just saying it. This is a way better movie than Maze Runner. And I know
Yeah,
I've been
I think-
kind of shit. I've been shitting on this movie a lot. It's not that bad. If you haven't seen it, I know we've kind of spoiled all of it, but enjoy it.
I think it would work a lot better if these like young adult series were turned into a serialized like TV show or a cartoon or something like that. Because with an anime, this would be a pretty good like 13 episode arc.
Yeah.
And then it would be launching into what's going to happen after that. But
Well,
as
and
like
the thing
a
is-
standalone movie, it didn't feel like it was.
You don't get
had
enough
a real
time to get to
finale.
know the plot. You don't get enough time
Yeah.
to get to know
Know
the
any of the
characters, and
characters.
how big this world is supposed to be. And that's why it kind
Yeah.
of feels like these teen angst movies seem like they're half-assed when really they're doing. I mean, they only have like 2 hours to be able to put this all like everything in there.
Yeah, it seemed like so much of the Maze Runner, like the movie and the book, were built around like presenting an intriguing mystery, and it does do that. But at the same time, by doing that, it sacrifices like our ability to really get to know these characters as well as we could in order to empathize with them, enough. It feels like we
Right.
don't get to know enough about these characters in order to really care about them and see what happens to them.
Well, and for this to be an anime, we've got to make sure that the characters have like as much of a heartfelt, like sad
Yeah.
life as possible.
You gotta
I mean,
give them backstories.
Yeah, and maybe moments before Gally is killed by whoever, he's just like, he talks about how how his power he got. I mean, I don't know like what could be related to
Well,
seeing
like,
into the future.
If
My
his-
mom was a psychic, and
Yeah, I was about to say.
yeah, she was labeled as a fraud, and so we were we were
lost
forced
our
to
home.
live. Yeah, but now I am actually a psychic, and so I could return to her business to be able to make it finally flourish. But of course, he gets killed by Minnow, who
Maybe
throws
like
the
he
spear at him or whatever.
he hates the outside world because they like ostracized his family and his mom because she was turned out to be a fraud psychic. And so now he doesn't want to return to the outside world because he sees civilization in itself as like a bunch of bullies, and he thinks, I can start my own civilization. We can be more fair and just than the outside world was to my family. And he wants everybody to stay in there so he can end up making it to his liking.
Right, but of course he meets his demise, because he was being a dick.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way that it works. But of course he gets his very sad end to his story. And then there needs to be more blood happening in the. I mean, like, in the scenes where they're facing the grievers, they need to be like cut and bruised and smashed, and like there needs to be like actual like actiony things happening here. Because that would make it more feel like the characters aren't invincible if they could actually take damage. And that was something that that I mentioned this earlier, but I like Thomas, like he makes it completely
time.
He was completely unscathed after like that 15-minute running scene like against the griever. So like I feel like he needs to be able to like after that scene takes place, he needs to be like hobbling out of the maze, like he barely made it out of there.
He can make it out, but just barely. Like he came this close to failure. And so as a result, he's like bruised and bloodied and cut and scraped. And like he knows that he can't keep this up the way that he's been doing it. They need to find the way out, or they need to like take a break for a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that the story that we've come up with is really solid. Anime companies, well, I guess since we created this here in America, it wouldn't be an anime. It would just be a cartoon, right?
Well, it could be like, if it's in the style of anime, that's anime, whatever.
Okay. So is like Avatar: The Last Airbender anime?
I've seen so many people arguing about that. And it feels influenced enough by anime that I'd say that's like an honorary anime. In Japan, anime is just what they call cartoons.
Yeah.
So like Frozen is an anime.
All right. So cool. This is the Maze Runner anime, the Anime's Runner. Dude, that's a solid title. The Anime's Runner,
Hell yeah. I like this more than the actual But
I think that happens a lot of the time, and we're definitely not biased because of us creating it. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Hey, by the way, we are on Facebook and Twitter. We have been for a while. We just haven't posted very much. We have recently started posting quite a bit more, so you can see a lot more content from us. We have over the last few episodes, that being the Memento as an Adam Sandler comedy, as well as to the 10 Cloverfield Lane as a Disney Channel movie. We have been making like posters or like kind of like preview kind of images and stuff to get you hyped up about those. Just kind of fun little things. If you have any ideas on how to improve those, if you want to send anything our way, maybe you want to create one for the Maze Runner movie for us and send it our way, that'd be awesome. But outside of that, leave us a review, let us know what you think about it, either in review form or just by, sending us a message or, by, tagging us on Facebook or Twitter. Anything else that I haven't said that I need to make sure that we get out there, Eric?
That sounds like pretty much everything. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All
right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll catch you next. Next week. So we're gonna be doing Die Hard. We're gonna be bringing that back throughout the entire month of February. We're going to be doing like some form of romance. So either we're going to be taking a romance movie and making it into something else, or taking a movie and then turning it into a romance. So we're starting out Die Hard as a romance. So continue to look forward to all of that for February, the month of love, the month of Valentine's Day, and we will catch you next Friday with Die Hard as a romance. Thanks again for listening. We appreciate it.